Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be looking at something pretty incredible. Something that really seems like it's straight out of science fiction, but actually it's not. It's happening right now in operating rooms all over the world.
Yeah, it's really amazing stuff. We're talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, augmented reality, and virtual reality all being used in brain surgery. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's true.
I know, right? It's like something you'd see in a movie. But this is the future of neurosurgery, and we're going to be taking a deep dive into it today with the help of this really fascinating research paper.
Yes, this paper is called Advances in Artificial Intelligence, Robotics, Augmented, and Virtual Reality in Neurosurgery. It's by Kazemzadeh and their team, and it lays out exactly how these technologies are revolutionizing the field.
I was reading through it and I was blown away. I mean, this paper is saying that AI, robotics, AR, and VR are completely changing every aspect of neurosurgery, from how we diagnose conditions to how surgeries are performed and even the cost of treatment.
It's pretty mind-blowing stuff, right? But paper makes a really strong argument. I think one of the most interesting things they highlight is that the real power comes from combining all these technologies.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about having all these cool gadgets, it's about integrating them into like a seamless system.
Exactly. They argue that the true potential is unlocked when we use these technologies together, kind of like how a surgeon uses a whole set of instruments during an operation. You wouldn't just use one, right?
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So it's about creating this whole ecosystem of technology that works together in the operating room. That's really fascinating. Can you give us some real-world examples of how this integrated approach is actually being used today in brain surgery?
Absolutely. So one example is using AI to help surgeons make decisions during surgery. Imagine an AI system that can analyze all the data from the operation in real time and predict potential problems before they even happen. Then it can give the surgeon advice on the best way to proceed, all within seconds.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's like having a super smart assistant in the operating room, helping the surgeon make the best possible decisions. That's got to be a huge help in such a high-pressure environment.
It really is. And then there's VR, which is totally transforming the way surgeons are trained.
Oh yeah, I read about that. That's so cool. How does that work?
So the paper talks about these simulators like NeuroVR and Immersive Touch. They basically allow surgeons to practice complex procedures in a completely risk-free virtual environment.
So it's like a flight simulator, but for brain surgery? That's amazing.
Exactly. They can practice these super delicate procedures over and over again, building their skills and confidence without ever putting a real patient at risk.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, especially for those procedures that are super rare or really technically challenging. But let's be real for a second. Introducing new technologies, especially in a field as sensitive as brain surgery, it's bound to raise some concerns. Does the paper talk about any of those?
It does, and that's one of the things I really appreciated about this research. It's very balanced. It acknowledges the incredible potential of these technologies, but it also highlights the very real limitations and ethical considerations that we have to think about.
That's really important. So what are some of the key concerns they raise?
Well, one major concern is patient trust. I mean, think about it. Many patients are understandably hesitant about putting their lives in the hands of a robot, even if it's being guided by a surgeon. It's a big leap of faith.
Oh, absolutely. I can totally see that brain surgery is already such a high-stakes procedure. Adding robots and AI to the mix is going to make some people uneasy, for sure.
For sure. And the paper really emphasizes the importance of the surgeon maintaining control and ensuring that patients feel comfortable with the level of technology involved in their care.
That makes sense. Communication is key, right?
Yeah.
The surgeon needs to be totally transparent with their patient about how the technology works, what the benefits are, and what the risks are.
Absolutely. It's all about building trust and making sure the patient feels empowered and informed throughout the entire process.
Okay, so we've got patient trust, but what about the surgeons themselves? Are they all on board with this technological revolution?
Not necessarily. The paper points out that some surgeons are resistant to adopting AI. They're worried that it could actually hinder the development of essential surgical skills.
That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that. So they're worried that becoming too reliant on technology might make them lose some of those finely honed skills that make them great surgeons.
Exactly. There's a concern that it could lead to a decline in the kind of intuition and dexterity that surgeons develop over years of practice.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like relying too much on GPS navigation. You might get to your destination, but you might also lose your sense of direction and map reading skills along the way.
Precisely. It's all about finding that balance between using technology to enhance human skills, not replace them.
Okay, so we've got patient trust and surgeon resistance. Anything else?
Well, there's also the issue of transparency with AI. This is something the paper calls the black box dilemma.
The black box dilemma. What's that?
Basically, it means that with some AI systems, even the developers don't fully understand how the AI is making its decisions. They know it works, but they don't know exactly why, which raises some pretty big ethical concerns.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem. If we don't know how the AI is making its decisions, how can we trust it completely? And how can we explain it to patients?
Exactly. It's a tricky situation, and it's something that we need to figure out as these technologies become more and more integrated into healthcare.
Okay, so we've got patient trust, surgeon resistance, the black box dilemma. Anything else we should be thinking about?
Well, there's also the issue of data privacy. I mean, AI needs a ton of data to learn and improve, and all that data comes from patients. So we need to be very careful about how that data is collected, stored, and used.
That's a really important point. We need to make sure patient privacy is protected and that their data is being used responsibly.
Absolutely. And the paper stresses the need for strong cybersecurity measures and clear ethical frameworks to ensure that happens.
Okay, so we've talked about patient trust, surgeon resistance, the black box dilemma, and data privacy. It seems like there are a lot of challenges to overcome.
Yeah.
But before we move on to the more exciting stuff like the success stories, I want to ask one more question about the human element. I mean, these technologies are amazing, but they're still just tools, right? At the end of the day, it's the surgeon who's making the decisions and performing the surgery.
That's a really important point. And the paper actually emphasizes that as impressive as AI is becoming, it still lacks the consciousness and ability to make nuanced decisions in the way that AI can analyze data and spot patterns, but it can't replicate the intuition and empathy and ethical judgment that are so essential to good medicine.
That's a really reassuring thought in a way. It means that no matter how advanced these technologies become, the human element will always be at the heart of healthcare.
I think so, and that's why it's so important to find that balance between technology and human expertise.
I completely agree. So we've talked about the challenges now. Let's talk about the successes. What are some of the most exciting things that are happening in this field?
Well, one study they highlight in the paper involves a team led by Holland who developed an AI-powered optical imaging system that can diagnose brain tumors in real time with 95% accuracy.
Wow, 95% accuracy. That's incredible. And in real time, that's got to be a game changer for surgeons.
It really is. It means they can get a diagnosis much faster and potentially remove the tumor more effectively.
That's amazing. So AI is literally helping surgeons make better, faster decisions right there in the operating room. What other wins did they talk about?
They also talk about a study where AI was used to figure out which side of the brain was causing seizures in patients with temporal lobe epilepsy.
Oh, wow. So AI was helping to pinpoint the source of the seizures. That's fascinating.
It is. And the AI was incredibly accurate. It had a 95.8% success rate in identifying the correct side of the brain.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how did that compare to traditional methods?
Well, physicians using traditional fMRI scans only had a 66.7% success rate. So the AI was significantly better at identifying the source of the seizures.
Those are some seriously impressive numbers.
Yeah.
It really shows how AI can help us to see things that we might miss with the naked eye.
Exactly. And this is just the beginning. I think we're going to see even more incredible applications of AI in neurosurgery in the years to come.
It's really mind-blowing stuff. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've seen the potential, the challenges and the considerations that come with bringing these incredible technologies into the world of brain surgery.
We have.
Yeah.
And in the next part, we're going to delve even deeper into the specific successes, the ethical considerations, and what all of this means for the future of neurosurgery.
I can't wait. This is really fascinating stuff.
Welcome back.
I am still thinking about all those amazing possibilities we talked about in the last part. It's just mind-blowing to think about how fast this field is moving.
It really is. I mean, the progress that's being made is just remarkable.
You know what really stuck with me? It's that whole thing about patient trust. It just makes sense that people would be a little bit hesitant, about robots and AI being involved in their brain surgery.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's understandable. I mean, we are talking about such a sensitive and complex part of the body.
Exactly. It's not like using a robotic arm to build a car. The stakes are incredibly high here. So how do we even begin to bridge that trust gap? How do we reassure patients that these technologies are there to help the surgeon, not replace them?
I think it all starts with really clear communication. Surgeons need to be upfront and honest with their patients. Explain how these technologies work, highlight the benefits, and address any concerns that the patient might have.
Right. So it's about building that strong foundation of trust and making sure the patient feels included and informed every step of the way.
Exactly. It's about shifting the whole narrative from, the robot is operating on you to your surgeon is using this really cool technology to make your surgery even safer and more precise.
Okay, I like that. It's a partnership between the surgeon and the technology, not a replacement.
Exactly. And this actually leads to another really interesting point that the paper brought up, which is that these technologies could actually improve the surgeon-patient relationship.
Oh, really? I wouldn't have thought about that. How so?
Well, think about it. If the AI is able to handle some of the more routine tasks during surgery, like analyzing scans or monitoring vital signs, it actually frees up the surgeon to spend more time with the patient.
That's a really good point. So the AI can take care of some of the technical stuff, and the surgeon can focus on that human connection with the patient.
Exactly. It allows the surgeon to really explain the procedure in detail, answer any questions the patient has, and just address any anxieties that they might be feeling.
That's a fascinating perspective.
Yeah.
So in a way, the AI is actually enhancing that human connection between the doctor and the patient.
I think so. It really reinforces that idea that AI is a collaborative tool, not a competitor to the surgeon's expertise.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be real. There are always going to be some surgeons who are a little resistant to adopting new technologies, right? So how do we address that reluctance?
I think education is key. Medical schools and residency programs need to incorporate training on all of these technologies. AI, robotics, AR, VR, right from the start.
Right. The earlier, the better, I guess. The more surgeons understand about these technologies, the more comfortable they'll be using them in their practice.
Exactly. And then there's the concern we talked about earlier about AI potentially hindering the development of essential surgical skills.
Yeah, that's a valid point. We don't want surgeons to become too reliant on technology and lose those core skills.
Definitely. We need to make sure that surgeons are still getting those hands-on training experiences and that they're continuing to master those fundamental surgical techniques.
It's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Using technology to enhance those core skills, not replace them.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears for a second, we've been talking a lot about these high-tech hospitals with all the latest gadgets. But what about hospitals that don't have access to all of that? The ones that might be struggling to afford even the basic equipment.
Yeah, that's a really important point. The cost of these technologies can be a huge barrier, especially for hospitals in low-resource settings.
It definitely is, and that's one of the biggest challenges to widespread adoption. So we need to find ways to make these technologies more accessible and affordable for everyone.
I agree. It's not just about developing cutting-edge technology. It's about making sure it reaches the people who need it the most.
Exactly. We need to make sure that everyone benefits from these advancements, not just a select few.
Okay, I want to circle back to some of those specific successes that we talked about earlier. I was really blown away by that study that used AI to predict tumor diagnoses in real time.
Yeah, that was a groundbreaking study. It really highlights the potential of AI to change the way we approach tumor removal.
And that 95% accuracy rate, it's just remarkable.
It is. And the fact that it can do it in real time, that's a game changer for surgeons.
Absolutely. It allows them to make more informed decisions right there in the operating room. Okay, what about the other study? The one where AI was used to figure out which side of the brain was causing seizures in epilepsy patients.
Oh, right. That one was amazing too. The AI was able to pinpoint the source of the seizures with incredible accuracy.
And it actually outperformed physicians using traditional methods.
Yeah. It really shows how AI can help us to see things that we might miss otherwise.
Yeah.
It's like having a second set of eyes that are incredibly precise and never get tired.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about AI. What about robotics? What were some of the most impressive robotic applications highlighted in the paper?
One that really stood out to me was the use of the steady hand system to help surgeons minimize tremors during those really delicate procedures.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a robotic assistant that helps the surgeon keep their hands steady, even when they're tired.
Exactly, which is super important in those procedures that require incredible precision.
Absolutely. What other robotic applications did they talk about?
They mentioned robots like Pathfinder and Minerva, which are being used in spinal surgeries to guide needles and insert screws with pinpoint accuracy.
Wow. It's amazing to see how robotics is already enhancing surgical capabilities in such a tangible way.
Yeah.
But, we keep coming back to this idea of balance. How do we make sure that surgeons maintain their skills and don't become overly reliant on these technologies?
That's the million-dollar question, right? We need to make sure that training programs strike that balance, teaching surgeons how to effectively use these technologies, but also making sure they don't lose those essential hands-on skills.
It's like a pilot who's flying a plane with all these fancy autopilot systems. They still need to know how to fly the plane manually if those systems fail.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really important point that the paper made, which is the need for ongoing research and development.
Right. This field is moving so fast. We need to keep pushing the boundaries and exploring new possibilities.
Absolutely. We can't just rest on our laurels and celebrate the successes we've already achieved. We need to look ahead and anticipate the challenges and opportunities that are coming down the pipeline.
So what are some of the key research priorities that the paper highlighted?
One of the big ones is the need for more robust clinical trials to compare AI-assisted surgery with traditional methods across a wide range of healthcare settings.
Okay, so it's about getting more data to see how these technologies are really performing in the real world.
Exactly. And we need to do this across different hospitals, different patient populations, and different types of surgeries.
That makes sense. So it's about going beyond the hype and really understanding the true impact of these technologies.
Absolutely. And they also talked about the need for longitudinal studies to track the long-term effects of VR training on surgeon performance.
Oh, that's interesting. So does VR training actually make surgeons better in the real world?
That's what we need to find out. We need to follow these surgeons over time and see if their VR training translates into improved patient outcomes.
Okay. And I'm guessing they also talked about the importance of research focused on accessibility and affordability.
Of course. We need to find ways to make these technologies accessible to everyone, not just patients in high-resource settings.
So it's about breaking down those barriers and making sure that everyone benefits from these advances.
Exactly. We need to be thinking about cost-effective solutions, training programs for healthcare providers in low-resource settings, and innovative funding models.
It's a big challenge, but it's one that we need to tackle if we want to make sure that everyone has access to the best possible care.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
We have, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right? There's still so much more to talk about, especially when it comes to the ethical dimensions of these technologies and how they might change the very nature of neurosurgery.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
What fascinating insights await us in part 3?
In part 3, we'll be diving deep into those ethical considerations and exploring what all of this means for the future of neurosurgery and, most importantly, what it means for you. So stay tuned.
And we are back for the final part of our deep dive into AI and VR in neurosurgery.
I'm really glad we could explore all this together. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has. I feel like we've covered so much ground, from the amazing potential of all this technology to the challenges and ethical questions that come with it. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to bring it all back to our listener.
Yeah.
What does this mean for someone who isn't a brain surgeon or a tech expert, just an everyday person who's trying to understand how all of this might affect their life?
That's such a great question. And I think the biggest takeaway for everyone is this. We are at the beginning of a massive shift in healthcare, AI, robotics, AR, and VR. They're not just futuristic ideas anymore. They're becoming essential tools in medicine. And neurosurgery is really at the forefront of all this.
It's pretty exciting, but also a little bit intimidating, right? So how do we navigate all of this? How do we know what questions to ask our doctors? What should we be aware of as patients?
I think the first step is to be informed. The more we understand about these technologies, the better equipped we'll be to make good decisions about our own healthcare. So don't be afraid to ask your doctor, how they're using these technologies, what the benefits and risks are, and how it might affect your treatment.
Right. So it's about being an active participant in our own healthcare, not just a passive recipient.
Exactly. And it's also about thinking about the bigger picture, the societal implications. We've talked about how these technologies raise questions about access equity and the potential for unintended consequences.
Yeah, that's a really important point. We need to be having these conversations as a society and thinking critically about how these technologies are being developed and used.
Absolutely. Who has access to these advancements? Are they being used in a way that benefits everyone? Are we considering the potential downsides?
It's like with any powerful tool. It's not just about the tool itself, it's about how we use it.
Exactly. We need to make sure that these innovations are being used responsibly, ethically, and for the benefit of all.
I completely agree. Okay, so we've talked a lot about neurosurgery, but these technologies are impacting all areas of medicine. What are some of the bigger trends that you're seeing?
Well, one of the most exciting trends is the move towards personalized medicine. With AI, we can analyze huge amounts of data and create treatments that are tailored to each individual patient. based on their unique genes, lifestyle, and environment.
Wow, so it's like moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare and creating something that's specifically designed for you.
Exactly. It's about finding the best possible treatment for each individual patient.
That's incredible. What other trends are you seeing?
Another big one is the shift towards preventative care. With AI and things like wearable technology, we can actually monitor our health in real time and catch potential problems before they become serious.
So it's about being proactive instead of reactive when it comes to our health.
Exactly. And then there's telemedicine, which is becoming increasingly important, especially with the advancements in VR and AR.
Oh yeah, telemedicine. It's breaking down those geographical barriers and making healthcare more accessible to people all over the world.
Exactly. And with VR and AR, we can create these really immersive experiences that actually enhance those telemedicine consultations.
It's amazing to think about how technology is changing healthcare in such profound ways. But with all this excitement, we can't forget about the human element.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that technology doesn't overshadow the relationship between a doctor and their patient?
That's the key question, right? We have to remember that technology should be a tool that strengthens human connection, not replaces it.
Right. Technology should be there to support and enhance that human element of care, not eliminate it.
Exactly. The human touch, empathy, compassion, those are the qualities that really matter at the end of the day.
I think we've covered so much in this deep dive. We've explored the potential of AI, robotics, AR, and VR in neurosurgery, and we've really wrestled with those tough ethical and societal questions.
We have, and I hope we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
I think so. We've challenged them to be informed, to ask questions, and to be active participants in shaping the future of healthcare.
Exactly. And as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. These technologies are powerful tools, but they're not magic bullets.
Right. We need to use them wisely, thoughtfully, and with a deep sense of responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The future of healthcare is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to ensure that it's a future that benefits everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of AI and VR in neurosurgery. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep advocating for a future where technology and humanity work together to create a healthier world for everyone.